Hi everyone, welcome back to IELTS Time. Today we're looking at a cue card that often trips people up. Describe a creative person whose work you admire. You should say who this person is, how you know this person, what creative things he or she has done, and explain why you admire his or her work so much. Don't worry if you're thinking, who counts as creative? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to answer this confidently for IELTS speaking. Let's jump right in by listening to Joseph's response.
One creative person whose work I really admire is Hayao Miyazaki, the Japanese animator and filmmaker. He's one of the co-founders of Studio Ghibli, which is famous worldwide for its beautifully hand-drawn animated films. I first learned about him in high school. A friend recommended the movie Spirited Away, and I was absolutely blown away by the visuals and storytelling. Since then, I've watched most of his films like My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, and Princess Mononoke. Over time, I read articles and watched interviews about his life and philosophy, which deepened my appreciation of his creativity. What makes him stand out is the way he combines fantasy with real-life themes. For example, Princess Mononoke isn't just an adventure film, it also explores environmental issues and the tension between humans and nature. Similarly, Spirited Away might look like a children's movie, but it carries subtle messages about consumerism, greed, and personal growth. Another remarkable thing is that most of his films are still hand-drawn, which is increasingly rare in an age dominated by computer animation. I admire his work so much because it feels timeless and deeply human. He doesn't just create stories to entertain. He uses imagination to make people think and reflect on the world. His movies are full of little details that make you feel connected to the characters, even if they live in completely imaginary worlds. That's the essence of creativity, taking something fantastical and making it emotionally real. Watching his films always inspires me to see ordinary life in a more magical and meaningful way. Overall, Hayao Miyazaki is a creative genius whose work has not only entertained millions of people, but also shaped the way I think about art, storytelling, and life itself.
That was a great response from Joseph. Now let's break down why Joseph's answer works so well. First, notice the structure. He clearly introduces the person, shares a personal story, describes their creative work with examples, and explains why he admires them. This structure keeps the answer organized and easy to follow. Step 1 is introducing the person. Joseph immediately names Hayao Miyazaki, explains his profession, and mentions what he is known for: Studio Ghibli. This gives the listener context right away and avoids confusion. Step 2 is sharing a personal story. Joseph tells us how he first discovered Miyazaki through Spirited Away in high school and expresses his reaction with the phrase, absolutely blown away. Adding a personal story makes your answer relatable and memorable. Step 3 is describing the creative work. Joseph mentions specific films, explains how Miyazaki blends fantasy with real-world themes, and points out his unique hand-drawn style. Using examples and details shows you really understand their creativity. Step 4 is explaining why you admire them. Joseph says Miyazaki's films feel timeless and deeply human, inspire reflection, and create an emotional connection with characters. This step adds depth and personal insight to your answer. Finally, let's look at some of the language Joseph uses. He says he was absolutely blown away. That's a powerful way to show admiration. He describes Miyazaki's films as timeless and deeply human, which emphasizes both their lasting value and their emotional depth. He also uses the phrase, the essence of creativity, showing that he is reflecting deeply on what makes Miyazaki's work so special. And when he says Miyazaki combines fantasy with real-life themes, he highlights the unique creative style that makes these films stand out. Expressions like these make the answer richer, more thoughtful, and more engaging. To summarize, a great answer has a clear structure. Introduce the person, share a personal story, describe their creative work, and explain why you admire them. Include specific examples and use expressive language to make your answer memorable. Now that we've broken down Joseph's answer, You might be wondering, what if you don't want to talk about a filmmaker? Or what if you want to give a different kind of example? Let's look at some other creative people you could choose for this cue card. These examples show how creativity can appear in technology, writing, music, sports, or even everyday life. Seeing a variety of examples can help you think of someone you personally admire and make your answer more unique. Let's start with Steve Jobs. He's the co-founder of Apple. You might know him because you read his biography, watched documentaries, or learned about him online. His creativity is shown in his work. Products like the iPhone, iPad, and MacBook that transformed ordinary technology into something innovative and beautifully designed. You could admire his work because it changed the way people interact with technology and inspired innovation around the world. J.K. Rowling. She's the author of the Harry Potter series. You might know her because you read the books, watched the movies, or heard about her globally. Her creativity is shown in her work. She built a detailed magical world, complete with rules, histories, and characters. You could admire her work because it inspired millions to read and demonstrated how imagination can make a cultural impact. Taylor Swift is another example. She's a singer-songwriter. You might know her because you listened to her songs, watched her music videos, or followed her performances. Her creativity is shown in her work, writing her own songs, constantly reinventing her musical style, and creating emotionally engaging lyrics. You could admire her work because it evolves continuously and connects deeply with listeners. For sports fans, Lionel Messi is a great choice. He's a football superstar. You might know him from watching highlights online, live games, or reading sports news. His creativity is shown in his work, improvising on the field, making unexpected passes, and creating scoring opportunities. You could admire his work because his unique playing style demonstrates creative problem-solving in sports. Finally, creativity can be found close to home. This could be a teacher, friend, or family member. You know them personally, from your classroom, home, or social life. Their creativity is shown in their work, turning ordinary tasks into engaging activities or solving problems in unique ways. You could admire their work because it improves everyday life and inspires those around them, showing that creativity doesn't have to be famous to be meaningful. From Steve Jobs to Messi, and even people close to us, creativity comes in many forms. Art, music, technology, sports, and everyday life. When you answer this IELTS cue card, making a personal connection and using specific examples makes your answer engaging and relatable. That's all for today's lesson on how to answer the IELTS speaking cue card. Describe a creative person whose work you admire. We explored Joseph's example, broke down why his answer works, and shared a variety of other examples, from filmmakers and authors to musicians, athletes, and even people in everyday life. The key is to choose someone whose work you can talk about in detail and connect their creative achievements to your own ideas and experiences. Remember, your answer becomes stronger when you use specific examples and expressive language. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you found most useful. See you in the next lesson.